Hey,
Hi,
hey
Jamie.
guys. Hi. Welcome, welcome. Guys, today I'm so excited. I'm talking to mom Tori Winstead, who has a cool Instagram account. I found her on Instagram because she is a mom who decided to give up fucking snacking. And so obviously on Instagram she's getting some interesting responses, and I thought I would have her on because, as you guys know, I'm talking about all these choices we make as parents, and I feel like along the way I'm just getting older and older, and I don't have a kid in the game anymore, and so it gets like challenging to give advice that works, but you I don't have the proof, I don't have the receipts, because they didn't have cell phone recordings the way we have now.
Right,
I
you
have
just got to do your own thing.
I have no receipts. And so I have Tori on to talk about how this went, and we're just going to have a conversation about snacks and the damages it's doing to our kids. And Tori, take it away. Introduce yourself to my people.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm so happy to be here. This is my first ever podcast. I
Get
am a
out.
mom. Yeah, I'm a mom. And I've been stay-at-home mom, so blessed to be able to stay at home with my two boys. They're 2 years old and 4 years old. And I just saw the way that social media has kind of become this is the right way to do it place. And I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I was constantly looking for new and better ways to reinvent the wheel when it comes to motherhood and parenthood. Because as soon as you get pregnant, you start getting so much content coming to you. It's crazy and it's great. And there's so many beautiful, helpful people out there. And then there's also a lot of you should do it this way, you should do it that way. So as I've been going through my motherhood journey, all these little steps that you have to get through, whether it's the sleeping thing and then to pacifier or not pacifier, when do you wean, there's all these milestones that are both beautiful and painful to go through as a mom. And I found Jamie through potty training my first child. I read the Oh Crap book, and because I was absolutely terrified, like, what am I going to do?
Right.
You don't realize just how much poop and pee you have to deal with as a mom until you're doing
Oh my God, nobody
it.
knows that. If they told
Nobody
us, none
knows
of
that.
us would have kids.
Yeah, no, exactly. You can't tell them. Don't tell them. Don't tell anyone. So I found you, and it was one of those wonderful moments with social media that it brought me to somebody who was helping me in my motherhood journey. And so anything that I put out on the internet, I'm growing my little audience over on my own socials, and it's been so fun to see it grow. Anything that I put out, I try to make sure it's helpful and it's honest,
You're
because
right, right.
that's just, I think, what we all need, rather than these picture perfect scenes of motherhood and pregnancy, when you do have those beautiful moments, and it's really good to share those, but also maybe some helpful things as well that apply to everybody, right?
Yeah,
So
and
that's
I
kind of
want
what
to
I've been
circle
doing.
back because it is so challenging. I one of the things I look at is what went wrong? When did it start to get crazy, right? And I'm looking at that now with
Yeah.
food and snacks. And one of the things, Tori, that's happened is I started to unpack like why dinners are so hard for parents. And I have a thriving email list, and we're having a back and forth there. I have a private community, the OCRAP Cafe. We're having conversations there, and somewhere along the line, like food just got so twisted. And part of that is the snacking culture and the dopamine hits we're getting from snack foods. But one of the things that I think makes social media so challenging and makes parenting so challenging is like how much information you're getting per scroll. And everybody appears to be an expert. They have reels, they speak with authority, and you're like, okay, if I always use spanking. Like, I think we're kind of mostly done with corporal punishment, but like people will say, if you don't spank your kids, you're raising a sociopath. If you do spank your kids, you're raising a sociopath. And so as a new mom, you're like, do I do this? It's with weaning, it's with never mind the biggies, circumcision, vaccine, like never mind the
Right.
biggies, but
It's
like
everything. Yeah.
everything,
Everything.
everything. And it's
And then
so
you're like, okay,
confusing.
I'm already being punished for what I'm doing, rather than being able to enjoy motherhood for what's in front of you, which is
Yes.
your beautiful child. So you're totally right. It is, and I would love to hear more about the conversations in the email list, because it's I'm living this, and I love that you're able to kind of give a space. You said your children are older now, but all of these things are still so real and so relevant, especially in your line of work. And it's wonderful to have somebody who has kind of gone through these motions and who isn't so, I guess, inflamed about it, because like all of us are going through it right now, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's do or die. Like, my kid's going to be a sociopath.
Right.
Great. So it feels really heavy sometimes. And, to take it back to the snack thing. So I this is how it started. And it's so funny that this is what took off for me because I've been posting little things, this and that, again, positive, great, all this stuff. And then one day I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to let my full personality fly out here. And my mom is awesome. She raised 4 kids, single mom. She handled it. All of us turned out amazing. She's amazing. And she came to visit me because I live in Arizona. My family's from California. She came to visit me, and I have my 2 kids, and I'm oftentimes the solo parent because my husband's lovingly working for us. So getting ready to get out of the house, she was helping me in that process. And here I am, like, jangling multiple water bottles together. Everybody has to have their own cup. Everybody's got to have a snack. I'm like making this whole thing, and my mom's just kind of like watching me. And I was like, okay, well, like, and I was like, do you remember just having to pack all this stuff all the time? Like, I'm always packing because, like, what if they get hungry? What if? And she's like, I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I didn't do any of that. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, you didn't have, like, all of this, like, making sure they have, refreshments for every outing. She's like, no. And for me, I was so.
Well, I'm sorry, but not just refreshments. It has to be organic. It has to be cut up so they don't choke. It has to be in BPA-free things.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. It better be this, that, the other. And, if you are buying packaged snacks, like, it better be the organic ones. And then now you're spending a lot of money on these snacks as well. Yeah. So that's a whole other thing we haven't even got into. But my mom just sat there looking at me, and she's like, no, I didn't bring water. I didn't bring snacks. We just went and did the thing and came back home and we ate at home. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's different if you're going to, like, a beach or, like, you're going out for an outing, but I'm talking like a couple runs in the morning before the nap time.
Sure.
Right. Or like a little park date in the morning. And so she came to the park with us that day, and we all the moms there brought snacks, and the kids were just sitting and eating. And my mom's just watching, and now my son is going to every other mom at the park, seeing what she's got in her bag. And then I noticed this crazy.
It's the most embarrassing thing. You're like, I feed my kid, but they have to eat everybody else's snack.
I know, because it's out, and because now we're making the park basically lunchtime, which is okay, but it's not lunchtime, right? And then we take them home, and then they're not getting their lunch. And then we're like, what's wrong? So my mom was just like, we just didn't do that. And I didn't really have any picky eaters. I didn't really have a problem. You guys are fine. You're in good weight. Like, I just wasn't worried like that. Like, you're worried about something that we just didn't worry about. And I was like, that really sat with me. And me and my sisters all have kids around the same age. And so I started talking to my sisters about it, because that's what we do as a family. And they were laughing like, mom's so hardcore.
Right.
And then like, she's so like this. And then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm done. I'm done packing snacks. I'm done with it. And then that next day, I just decided to stop cold turkey just to see what happens. Like, every day is a new experiment as a parent anyway, right?
Right.
So I just decided to stop, and honestly, it's been great. There was a couple hard days, just like taking the pacifier away. Like, they're going to cry a little bit, just like weaning.
Right.
A week of struggle.
Yeah.
And then they completely forget about it, and you're on to a whole new chapter.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So,
Tori, hang on one second, please. Okay. Sorry. So, like, I just have to say, like, it's today. Now I live in the woods. There's like no noise. And now all of a sudden they're cutting down trees, like, right next door to me. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm trying to do a podcast.
That's all right. I didn't hear a tree. So you got a good system going. You're fine.
So one thing I love, it's funny. I had a similar moment with my mom. She was like, you guys make this look really hard. And I was like, and I really took that to heart. My son is 19 now. So when he was here, I was like, we do make it look hard. Why do we make it look so hard? And then I was like, wait a minute. I said, we went to the beach when we were a kid. First of all, no seatbelts. We were just a bunch of kids in a station wagon climbing over the seats. There was a cooler with, like, just bread, meat, and, like, watered down Kool-Aid. There was no, like, and that was for a day at the beach,
Right.
Like, you don't even understand. Like, now we got to cut up the food. We got to keep it in the BPA free. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. And one of my favorite stories, it's just because you brought up the beach. I went to the beach. I had Pascal and his little friend Jackson. We go to the beach. There may be 5 or 6. I bring all the food. Everything's all cut up. The coolers,
Because you're a
the
great mom. You're a
toys,
good mom. It's
the
perfect. Yeah.
blankets. And
Mm-hmm.
my big thing
Yeah.
is we never had, we only had one towel when we were kids and went to the beach or pool. And so like, my big luxury is like, we bring a ton of towels. So nobody's ever
Ooh.
with a soggy towel.
Right.
And so we're at the beach and this woman and her husband come and put a blanket down next to us. And the best I can tell, she got 7 kids. Like I'm trying to count them all. And she lays down. She has one like plastic shopping bag. She puts that down. She lays down. The husband lays down on the edge of the blanket and swats the kids away like flies. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? She's got nothing but this like plastic grocery bag. So I leaned over and I had to ask her, I said, ma'am, like you have like 7 kids. Where's all your stuff? Like, what are you doing? And she said, I have 7 kids. I can't bring food for everybody. She pulls out the plastic bag. She pulls out a loaf of bread, a stack of bologna, no condiments, no chips, no nothing. And she's like, here, they're hungry. They'll eat this. And then she had one towel. And I was like, how do you have one towel? And she was like, I'm not doing laundry for 7 kids with towels. No, they can wipe their hands before they eat. And she's laughing because she knows she's onto something. I said, what about the sand toys? She was like, they have hands. I said, what about boogie boards? She was like, they have bodies. No, I'm not playing this game. The beach is the fun. The beach is the fun. And I was like,
beach is the fun.
Holy shit, this woman changed my view on everything. Cause I was like, you are so right? Like what you're talking about with all the kids acting like little baby birds at the playground. Mama, if a snack.
Yes.
And the playground's the fun. But they're acting like the food is the fun.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. The food is the fun. We're here. Let's eat. And you're like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Because and then social media tells you all about all the ways that you're creating this perfect brain in your child and the neural pathways and every little thing that matters and every breath that you take matters and every way that you look at them matters and every tone matters. And then you go ahead and just you keep feeding them because you're like, this is, I want them to be happy and everything matters. Mm-hmm. But everything does matter. So what exactly are we teaching them if all we're doing is pacifying them with food all day long and then teaching them that they don't really have to eat the food that everybody's eating? Like what are we doing to their neural pathways there? It all came back full circle when my mom was like, we just didn't do that. And then she is always like, gosh, it seems so hard for you too. She says the same stuff. She's like, I had 4 kids. I was a single mom. And I just didn't feel like it didn't feel this hard,
You fed your kid basic food. You fed them 3 meals. Yeah. And even,
okay, sure. Little kids, one of the things people have been saying, because I've just said, like, I'm done packing snacks. And people got mad. That first one, people got mad. I said, oh my gosh, you would think that I'm starving these kids. You would think that I'm doing something wrong. And it's just, we're so emotional about food and we're so defensive about our habits and everything. And everyone's just like, that's terrible. And sure, a small child, you may need to feed them a few more times because they are little and their bellies are little. Sure. Like a 2-year-old, my 2-year-old probably eats like 5 times a day, but it's not going to be a bunch of snack food. Like, here's a sausage. I'm going to give you that same sausage in 2 hours that you didn't finish.
Well, I think that's the thing is we need to separate out one thing. So about 2 years ago, I did a post and I said, code, when a kid says they want snack food, it's code word for ultra processed food. It's sugar. Individually packed. The granola bars, the goldfish, it's starchy, it's sweet. And we know what we're talking about when we say it's full of chemicals. I can't stand it's processed and people go, oh, when you cut meat, it's processed. Like, no, you know what we're talking about. And so about 2 years ago, I did a post and I was like, this is code. It's code for junk food. And I got slit. When I say I lost like 7,000 followers, the internet came for me. It was wild. And I was like, oh my God, like these people are acting like crackheads. And I think we have to separate out what we're talking about because I think children should always eat when they're hungry. But if they're hungry, they're going to have a string cheese and a hard-boiled egg. They will be happy with a clementine cutie. They're hungry. Yep. They'll be hungry. Mm-hmm. If they have a little bit of cheese and a bit of fruit, that's it. But that's not what's happening. And so I always think children should eat, but they shouldn't be eating Oh, don't get me started on the whitewashing of like the made good bars from Whole Foods, or the, like, everybody's eating these granola snack bars, and
That's
because they're
it.
at Whole Foods, it's healthy. No, it's
Right.
not.
Oh yeah, the That's It bars. I don't know if you've seen them. They're little white
No.
bars and it's dried fruit, but it is a bunch of dried fruit that's been kind of mashed into a bar. So you're getting like 16 grams of sugar. You're getting these crazy amounts of sugar in these tiny things. And because it's all fruit, it's dried fruit. You've taken a lot of the water and all the things that make fruit healthy
Right.
and condense it into just a big brick of sugar, and you're giving it to them. And again, it's whether the whitewashing, whatever that is, that marketing, it's
Greenwashing. Yeah.
working. It
Oh
works
yeah.
really well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I fell for it. And that's the thing. It's like I'm coming from a place of like I was buying all those things. I was doing that, and I was seeing the change in my children. I wasn't so hardcore. I was hardcore before I had kids. And then my kids melted my heart. And
Right.
to see them happy and to see
Right.
them munching on anything gives you this incredible sense of joy and dopamine as a mother too, to
Right.
see them quiet, happy,
Happy.
excited. And so there's all of these additional layers to the snack thing. And like you're saying, it's not about starving kids. Of course not. You feed a child when they're hungry, but what you feed them matters. And removing your own emotions about the joy that they're receiving from the food is, I think, the tipping point right now, at least for my journey, is removing the fact that like if they're not hungry, yeah, he might throw that piece of cheese on the floor, or like,
Right.
I don't want that, because you're
Right.
not actually hungry, you're looking for something else, and then you weren't happy with what it was.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I'm a bad mom or I'm doing the wrong thing. You know, it doesn't mean that. It means that they're not actually hungry for real food. They are looking for sugar,
Right. Well,
and
I
making that
kind of want to circle
distinction.
back to something you just said, like the joy, like as moms, there's so much to this, right? And like you said, like we actually even get some dopamine because our kids are being taken care of. We're providing something for them, right? And the
Yeah.
joy of food, they're not, what I'm looking at looks like addict behavior. It doesn't look like the joy of food. It is not the joy of food. It's the joy of quieting a disgruntled kid because either they're physically craving something or they're emotionally craving something in that
Mm-hmm.
snack time, right? So that
Yeah.
isn't even the joy of food. To me is like a good dinner, and then the family goes out for ice cream, and that ice cream is the best ice cream you ever tasted. That to me is like
Yes.
the joy of food. But
That's
when a
right.
kid needs a granola bar, that's like the quote unquote joy you're seeing is not, you're abating an addict. And I think that's the thing that,
Yes.
like, people will come at me because that strong language, but this is a
Mm-hmm.
food addiction, I feel like. And I feel
It
like
is.
the very parents, Gen X and older millennials, who are doing this because they want their kids to have a good relationship with food, are literally creating an eating disorder in the other way. Like, we grew up with diet culture, so we're like anti-diet culture, but now we're creating kids. I get clients who are eating one food. And I'm talking, it's brownies, Pop Tarts. It's not broccoli. It's not chicken. Yeah.
Oh,
And
that
so
just gave
we,
me like, oh, so
right.
sad.
And so like,
So hard. Yeah.
yeah. And so I think like we have to look at, as parents, like what we're doing. And you had done a post recently about it being a pacifier. And that, talk to me about that, because I see that all over the
Right, which
place.
is kind of what you're saying with that granola bar story of that child who's like,
Yeah.
I need it now.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm not going to be okay. Right? And it's so sad because every time you send them up that glucose spike, you're going to drop them back down. You're going to keep having that experience all day long. This is every day of your life is going to be like this for
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
long as you continue to give them those high sugar spikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we talk about the pacifier, my first son took a pacifier, and it was the best thing, let me tell you, because I breastfed and I co-slept, and I was able to go from nipple to pacifier, and it was great.
Right.
It was
Right.
the greatest thing. And then when he was about 2, I was like, okay, you're fully speaking in sentences and you're trying to do the pacifier. And we're not going to do that, like
Right.
he's trying to
Right.
talk with it. So it was time to pull it. And it was horrible. It was horrible getting him to sleep, getting him to soothe. Because I think the pacifier is for the mother just as much, if not maybe even more than it is for the child. And I think we have to own that fact that it
Mm-hmm.
is actually more for the parents, because having children, especially your first or second, you're like kind of in the new world of essentially having your auditory nerves jangled
Right.
all the time,
Right.
all the time. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I just need a break.
The
So it's
auditory
just as
stimulation.
much a pacifier for the mom as it is for the kid, whether it's the actual pacifier or it's that sugar, whatever. You
Mm-hmm.
make that crinkling sound of that bag, and all of a sudden the crying stops. Everything gets
They can
quiet.
hear you. If they can hear that crinkling
They
sound,
can
like
hear that and
we
they know, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so it's just like and that's why I compared it to the iPad. I had a video where I compared it snacking to
Sure.
iPads. It's just like that. Like here, just take my phone and watch this video because I just need a break. Just take this granola. I just need you to stop. And I think that is the place where we can all connect as mothers and as parents, as fathers, where it's just like too much for us, especially in this generation where we've always been able to pacify ourselves immediately. So we're the parents of we got the internet. I mean, I'm in my 30s, so I think most people with young kids are 30s, 40s,
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
this point, maybe early 20s if they're teen moms.
Interesting. So you're connecting a big dot for me. Let me interrupt
Yeah.
because
Go ahead.
this is because my son's 19. So he had first generation iPad. He was 6 when that
Yeah.
came out. No, 4
Wow.
and 5. So we
Wow.
got that first generation iPad. And like you said, what was interesting is we didn't have tech like that before the iPad. So when I say if you have a kid my kid's age, dude, this was better than sliced bread. We literally said the words, "Oh my God, he'll be quiet for hours." This was like amazing, and then we were like, "Wait a minute, this can't be good."
Hold on. Right, exactly. Hold on. It probably is too good to be true if it's working that well. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we kind of we had to figure that out for ourselves. But what has been the large majority of my work right now is figuring out what the hell went wrong. Why did parenting get so hard? Why is it so overwhelming? I parented my son for years without a screen, and we did fine. And people are like, I don't even understand. How are you cooking? You had a toddler. Like, how did you do that when Pascal was little? How did you cook? And I was like, I don't understand, because he was in the house with me. He was around with me. I didn't need a screen. I never needed a screen. But what you're saying is that because your generation was raised on Dr. Becky is now calling it Amazon kids. You're an Amazon generation. I want it. I want it now. I had to wait for The Wizard of Oz to come on at Christmas. You had a VHS or a CD or a streaming service where it was accessible to you every single time you wanted it. So that's a huge connecting the dots for me, because your generation of parenting is used to a dopamine fix, is used to fast acting. And so that's what's making it harder, is because you're chasing it too. And then your kids, so you don't even know how to stay steady for your kids as a whole. Oh, that's so cool. I mean, it's
That's
not cool, but it's
exactly right.
like,
It's helpful to recognize what it is, because right, you were the generation that you as a person didn't have instant gratification the same way my mom didn't have instant gratification. So she just dealt with the whining, she dealt with the crying, she just dealt with it. There was no other way besides through. There was no way to just turn the kid off.
right.
Right?
You just dealt with
We're able
it.
to turn the kid off with a snack. I mean, there's always been the lollipop here or there. And I'm sure that when back in the day, it was like you got to have a cookie at the grocery store because it does turn your kid off so you can get the grocery shopping done.
Right.
It's always been there. It's just becoming more and more accessible and more just visually out there in mom culture. It's like to always have a snack. Like, where's the snacks? Like, it's like
Right.
a part of the culture now. And so when it comes to the instant gratification piece, yeah, like I started being able to have computer time, and our generation was like raised on the VHS and the screens and whatever, because again, it was the best thing since sliced bread. My mom's like, I got 4 kids. You're going to watch this while I get whatever done. But it was still just the one show or whatever it was. And it was on the
slow
main
moving.
screen.
It wasn't the fast clips.
Right. It wasn't what
Right.
it is now, but
Right.
I think that we had a family computer, but we all got to have computer time. And then I got a laptop at, maybe 16. So then I had access to my own computer. I had a cell phone. I've never been an adult without the instant gratification or the Amazon generation stuff. So now you're going to tell me that my most precious thing in the whole world is upset and I'm not going to fix it right now because I know I can't, that's
Mm-hmm.
within my power to fix it. And so it
Mm-hmm.
feels like the right thing to do
Right.
until I think you realize that your baby's turning into a kid and like all of these demanding things are now turning into somebody that's just kind of not that fun to be around.
Right. Well,
And
because that high, you need, whether it's the sugar high, yes, but the dopamine is seeking. It's really a seeking thing. It's not so much the
yeah,
hit of pleasure, it's the
it's
seeking
the
and the
seeking, right?
excitement about that thing. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
not never ending treadmill that goes
Yeah.
faster and faster and faster. So they are unpleasant to be around because behavior escalates. And like about, I don't know, about 5 years ago, I started saying, what are we doing? Because we're going 100 miles per hour faster and faster towards a brick wall of depression and anxiety. Like we are
Yes.
not, but it just keeps getting more fevered. And so,
Yeah.
like,
It
and
does.
I think snacking is such a microcosm of that because we're just reaching, it's that cheap dopamine. And we're just reaching for it and reaching for it. And then, like you said, picky eating's out of control and
Picky eating
behavior.
is out of control. And then it's that same thing of if I have the power to help my child, and every parent doesn't want their kid to go hungry, they're not going to starve. So that's one thing that I keep getting parents, these sweet, beautiful people like messaging me. We're just like, I don't know what to do. Like, how do I do this? How did you do this? And they're so
Mm-hmm.
lost in the fog, they can't see just the simplicity of the fact that humans will always survive. We are
Mm-hmm.
born and wired to survive. So
Right.
if you cut out that thing, I mean, and I don't know, maybe I'm just naive and maybe I don't really know because this is not, I'm not a professional. I'm not working with kids with disordered eating. I don't know, but maybe you can enlighten me on this. But if you just kind of stop giving that kid brownies and only give them these three options every day, like, are they gonna end up wasting away, or do you think they'll just end up picking up the apple or picking up the food eventually? I don't know where that line is for
I
people.
think so. We do get a little sticky. So there's like three different categories. I call it standard picky eating, which is most kids. This is like
Mm-hmm.
kids get selective around 2. They all go through a buttered noodle kind of phase,
Mm-hmm.
and you just keep offering the food and you don't make a big deal about it. And then their taste buds acclimate and they get over it. That doesn't happen anymore in our culture because every parent, like the idea of a child missing a meal or not being hungry is foreign to parents. So that's when they start pulling in. Like I always ask a picky eater, how did you get to only eating Pop-Tarts? You brought them into your house? Because my kid has had Pop-Tarts. I was very strict when he was little. He had Pop-Tarts, but it was at somebody else's house. That happens at
Right.
Tori's house. That
Right.
doesn't happen at my house. I don't have
Right,
Pop-Tarts.
exactly. That's not at my house. That's at the birthday party.
I
Like, we
was
don't have
never
those at our house.
restrictive like that. It just was
Yeah,
not in my house. And
correct.
so,
Yes.
and so there's that. Then we have very severe. We have something called ARFID, which is probably the most severe picky eating, but it is an eating disorder and it's very complicated, but that child will technically that child will starve themselves. But I would be
Wow.
interested because I don't know that anybody's actually, I mean, it sounds terrible, but I don't know that anybody's pulled it to the limit to see if a child would eventually, because I always think
Sure.
like, what if cataclysmically, what if there was a war or what if there was a asteroid hit and we had no grocery stores and we all had to hunt and we all had to survive that way? Would these kids starve? I always think like that, but I don't know. And then we have a
That's how,
middle
and
ground.
maybe that's how I think. I don't know why this is like my coping mechanism for parenting when things get hard. I think about if I was a woman in a tribe a long, long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
how would I handle this situation? How would I deal with whatever pain I'm dealing with? I think about it all the time. So you saying that, I'm like,
Yeah.
we've survived like a very long time and we
Right.
have evolved quickly and very well. And we're at this point where we're at the top of the mountain. And are we going to go down the mountain with our health, or are we going to continue to climb upwards? And like, what are we doing to maybe make that happen? So yeah, I don't know what would happen with a child like that. And I feel for the parents that have gotten into that position because like you said, it does start around like 18 months to about just continuing to offer and don't get emotional about it. They don't have to eat it, but just keep putting new things in front of them, and oftentimes they will eat it, especially if you're not filling in all the gaps and teaching their stomach to only want processed food,
Yeah,
you know. And
exactly.
that's
And
that,
I
and
and I
that
think that's
unfortunately
a
does
big
come back to
part.
parents. It always
Yeah, and
does.
I think
Yeah.
too, like, but what also is people like they just are so tired, and that's what a lot of
They're
moms tell me.
so
I'm so exhausted.
tired.
I'm so exhausted. But what's really interesting again is you saying that your generation is wired for instant gratification. And so that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense because you're already burnt out. I also think that nobody's looking truthfully at their phones the way that we got to put your phone down. I've been hiking mountains every weekend and I don't have cell reception, and it's been amazing because like my brain fully shakes out and we're not giving ourselves any sort of auditory visual rest
Right.
ourselves. So we're
Absolutely.
on edge. And so I
We're
do
already on
think,
edge, and then you add in a toddler. It's like,
yeah,
here's your snack, here's your screen. I can't do it because I've already maxed out all of my bandwidth with, again, media, sounds, all of these things, which we are beautiful or wonderful tools, but we just are not yet. We haven't. We're kind of toddlers in our own right when it comes to technology, as even as
sure,
adults, because we're
sure.
learning how to better handle ourselves with these devices, with these opportunities, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's a bad thing, but I do think we need to put bumpers on ourselves as well. Yeah.
You have to put guardrails on. Well,
Mm-hmm.
because I was asking myself, I'm like, okay, so I hear that you're exhausted and you're tired. I was a single mom working full time outside the home. What me 100% of the time. How come I didn't feel as overwhelmed as the moms today? So that's what I keep looking at. Like I'm not going back like, oh, back in the olden days, but like and it comes down to screens. There weren't screens. There wasn't that instant gratification. And
Yeah.
I just, like you said,
Stealing
with
away all of your time.
stealing
Stealing
away
away
my
so
time, but
much
also like
time.
not
Yeah.
being on a track, I think, a treadmill of like more, 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 because Pascal would literally just bring his toys into the kitchen. If he wasn't helping me cook, he was playing near me and it wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
thing. He wasn't up my ass. He actually wasn't stimulating. So I'm wondering if kids are more stimulating today because we're all on
Yes.
this treadmill.
Yes, I can speak to that from my personal experience again with my first son versus my second son, because I got a little harder in a good way as a person, as a mother, like as a woman. I realized where my line was and where my boundaries had to be and what no sounded like and what a crying kid who's whining sounds like and where it stops. So there's all these things that I had to learn with my first son, and my first son is very demanding, and he is very right now, right, and he's only 4, so I know I have some time to help him continue to be contented. But I was very much so attachment parenting, full love, full everything, every single cry met, and I love all of that. However, I think that the ways in which the people who are studying that stuff are looking at it from, like, again, a time and space where we're living in tribes or where we're living in
And
communities
villages
and
where,
villages where it wasn't a screen, it wasn't a piece of food or a screen or something, because you're only one person. So how do you pacify each and every cry and everything like that, and continue to sing and play and do all these things, but also get everything else in the world done.
yeah,
God forbid if you also have to earn the money for your house, you know what I
yeah,
mean? There's all of these things that you have to do, and one person just can't do it. So I think there's like this double standard of this like attachment, loving, gentle parenting model, but in the isolation environment, that they just don't match up. So we're having to find different ways to deal with that. So I think kids are more demanding, to come back to what you're saying. They're more demanding because we want to do the best thing. And this is just my personal
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
We want to do the best thing. We don't want them to cry. We want them to be contented. We want to be gentle and sweet and always come to every cry. And then the ways in which we do that just aren't in a village style. So it's going to be a toy, a new toy, a new
The
show.
guilt. I hear from moms who, I'm so guilty because my kid, I didn't have a sibling for my kid. So I'm going to be their playmate. I'm providing everything and they end up with a tyrannical,
Yes.
demanding kid
Yeah.
because this kid has had everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, and you're so right. Oh my God, I'm so happy we're talking because it is that, like, a lot of the rhetoric you hear online, a lot of this like no sleep training and all that, that was in village type things. I had to sleep train Pascal. I was a single mom. I was afraid in the middle of the night I would shake him because I'd be so frustrated, right? And so I was like, no, this kid's got to sleep. And so I sleep trained him. It was the best thing I ever did, but by all accounts I was killing my kid. No secure
Obviously, your
attachment.
kid's going to be bad. Yeah, this is gonna it's going to turn out bad for you. You're going to have a criminal on your hands in 18 years,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, is that true? Like, oh my gosh, yeah. And women
Well, I'd
all
rather him be
around,
a
yeah.
criminal than dead because I shook him. because I was overwhelmed. And you can tell me
Right.
all you want that it shouldn't be this way, that I should not be overwhelmed. But when you're a single mom, what the hell? Like you run out of
It's
resources.
overwhelming. And I think this idea that you need to be some fairy tale princess mom who never has real feelings, and if you do, then you're probably abusive. And there's just all these layers of like, and it does, none of it matters, right?
Right.
But it's being brought to our screen, to our face, in our minds each and every day, just being dumped into us as mothers, as fathers, about what the right thing to do is. And then everyone's, I think, doing what they want to do in the comfort of their own home. And maybe some things are even bringing more shame and guilt around their experience. It's just like this cycling. So I think for me, when I saw like on my comments around not snacking and maybe going without and dealing with the pain of what it is to see your child suffer, to hear no, to deal with that without shutting it down or shutting it up,
Right.
is so difficult for my generation, because we always are able to instantly just switch the page, turn that bad feeling off and go ahead and switch the page, refresh, scroll, take a picture, call, text. We can always pacify
This
ourselves
is
so easily.
so eye-opening, Tori, because I have been, anybody who's listening to this podcast knows I'm like, what is up with parents having no distress tolerance? There is no distress tolerance. Like, yes, your kid's going to cry. So I work with parents on setting boundaries, and they're like, okay, I set the boundary. I'm so proud of myself. But then my kid freaked out, so I can't hold the boundary. And I'm like, no, they're going to freak out. They get to have big feelings because you held the boundary. Now it's our job to stay steady. And that is something
That's
people
the
are struggling with.
piece.
So now I
That's the sauce.
know.
That's the sauce, the steady. Because I'm working on it every day. Every day, I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Whew.
Oh my God, that's amazing. You're connecting
Yeah.
so many dots for me. I'm so
Oh,
happy.
good. I'm
I
so
knew I
happy. I'm
needed
having so much fun talking about this. I'm so happy.
I knew I needed to talk to younger moms because, like I said, I'm out of the game. I'm feeling like a boomer now because I'm like,
Oh,
well, back in
no.
my day before the
We just
computer.
dealt with it. I know. And that's, I think that the next thing, I just recorded some content that I think we've thrown the boomers out with the bathwater. And like
Mm-hmm.
when my mom said all that, it almost sounded callous at first, but the more I realized it, and the more my kids were just driving me absolutely bonkers in my house, climbing the walls and scaling to get the snack, to get those yogis that are supposedly prebiotic. They market it so well
They
to where you're like,
do.
yeah, hey, that's a great idea,
Yeah.
and it's not. So I was just like, why are these kids like crawling out of their skin right now? What am I doing? And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to my mom. And she's a boomer. And
Mm-hmm.
she did some things maybe I wouldn't do, but we did all turn out really well. And just like, maybe I can remove any sort of guilt. Like I'm from like, oh, I remember when my mom hurt my feelings. Well, guess what? I'm probably going to hurt my kids' feelings, and I should probably accept that now, because it's
Yes.
inevitable.
Yes.
Or we're going to just not get along and be so miserable in our own house because nobody's willing to get their feelings hurt.
I
You know,
literally just recorded a series called "Let's Bring It Back" because and I use the same terms. We threw the boomers out with the baby bathwater. Like
yes.
we decided that their parenting wasn't great, so we set out on a new paradigm of parenting, which I admire for us. And there was no map. Gen X started
Sure.
it, older millennials,
Yes. You guys,
then
yeah.
younger millennials, and now Gen Z is going to turn it around. I think younger millennials and Gen Z is going to turn the boat around.
I think
But
so too. Yeah.
but what's happened is we threw everything out instead of
Mm-hmm.
like some basic things. Cause like people, and one of the phrases I said we should bring back is, yeah, life's not fair. Cause I have parents giving like lectures to their 4-year-old. Oh, it's not fair that he got more of this. He did this. Yeah. Life's not fair. Leave it.
Right.
Life's not
Leave
fair.
it.
Leave it.
Yeah.
Just like,
Leave it.
you
It
don't have
just,
to
it doesn't need.
explain.
Yeah, because all it is doing, and I have a very cerebral, intelligent son, and he loves to split hairs. This
Yeah.
boy is like gonna be some sort of philosopher, because
Our
he's just like
lawyer.
his dad's like that. Me and my husband love to just talk and talk and talk. We could talk all night long, and that's just what we like to do. So it makes perfect sense that our son is like this, right?
Right.
And I realized that he's just trying to keep the game going of conversation, the whys and the
The
da da da
why.
da da
That's
da
what
da
why
da da
is.
da da.
Yeah.
And then I read this book called 1, 2, 3 Magic, which was written, I think, in the 80s or 90s on
Yeah.
parenting. And it's a no
I hate that
spank
book.
thing. You hate it? Okay, well, whatever. I'll tell you this. Just saying like, hey, I'm going to give you a chance right now before I know it's like, just to stop. Like that's one. And for him, it works at this point because he knows like, okay, cool, I'm pushing it past the limit. If you have another suggestion, please let me know. Because again,
I just think if they can do it on 3, they can do it on 1. So I think less chances.
I like that even better.
Whatever the thing is.
I thought you were going to say it was too harsh.
No. Whatever the thing is, we don't give them more opportunities because that gives you more opportunities as a parent to get dysregulated. So if you give them 3 chances, they're going to push the limit. We've all got, how many, I said, as soon as you're doing 2 3/4 and you're counting off 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, you've lost the game. You've lost the game.
Oh yeah. Right.
So I always say, if they can do it on 3, they can do it on 1. And that way you have more leadership in your house. So you have to have authority as a parent.
I like
parents
that.
get that screwed up and think it's authoritarian. So I say leadership because you're the leader. And if you give your kid 3 chances, they're going to use them and you're going to get pissed off. That gives you more opportunity than to lose your shit. And we're trying to keep, we got to stay regulated, because if we're dysregulated, the game's lost.
Well, I think that's the thing that it has done for me. And I'm willing to use any like tried and true system, because again, I need help figuring this out. Because again, pulling just from the past of once a parent is dysregulated, and I think that we've all experienced our parents, and our brains unfortunately remember the worst parts of whatever our experience was, not all the beauty, which is so unfortunate. But I just remember being like, I don't want to yell because my mom yelled sometimes and that made me feel bad. But you can say something so gentle and sweet so many times until then you turn into the rage monster that you never wanted to be, because there's no system. So at least that for me, like I just read this book and it was great because I was like, okay, I can't keep arguing. I feel like this gentle thing's not working. And so it's all kind of come to this point where I'm like learning boundaries essentially as a parent, as a millennial parent.
And
that like it can't all just be
stress
gentle.
Tolerance within that boundary.
Stress tolerance.
Like that's what it is like, oh my God, okay, my kid's crying. I'm right here. So what we have to do, this is one of my most downloaded episodes is my 2nd episode that I ever did on this podcast, which is called Psycho Mom. And it's literally that you're gentle, 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 then you go psycho. There's in between. You have to learn how to have more leadership, because it can't be all this and then you rage when it could just be, you know what, cut the shit. Let's cut it. That phrase back.
Just remember that mommy's nice and she's firm, and that's it. Right. And learning that is so interesting, because it's a total paradigm shift from what's socially acceptable as an adult woman. Like, you know what I mean? To be that authoritarian as a woman in the space that we live all the time is not always the most friendly or the most inviting or the most attractive, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I know that some people can cultivate that, but I do think that generally women are wanting to please and wanting to soothe and wanting to comfort most of the time. I think it's in our biology, and learning how to really grow yourself a backbone as a mom is a difficult thing. At least for me, it's been a difficult thing. So learning just where the line is, and that's with snacks, that's with everything. So I know that we kind of got a little bit off course from the dopamine and the pacifier. I think that's where we stopped with the snacks, but it's like literally it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing, and it just takes on different shapes. Yeah. And it's all different. I guess you could say like canvases, you know, you have a bunch of different.
I want to circle back because I do think it's an important part of this, which is I don't want to be like my mom, because that is where we threw the boomers out with the bathwater, is I don't want to be like this. And so I want to reiterate what I've been saying on this podcast and on Instagram and a lot in all my work. There are differences. We repair. When we lose our shit or yell, we know now that we say to our littles, I'm sorry I scared you. I was very frustrated. I got upset, and I need to calm my body in these moments. We now know that that's what we can do. Our parents didn't do that. They just doubled down.
They never did that to us. Yeah.
Double down. It's your fault. You made me mad, right?
Right. Yeah.
When our kids are grown and come back to us and say, you know, I want to let you know that like throughout my life, you really hurt my feelings because you did X, Y, and Z. I can guarantee that most of us are going to be like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that. I'm sorry. Whereas now, like the reason we have a lot of parental estrangement is people say to their parents, hey, you were kind of an asshole my entire life. And the parents are like, well, you were kind of a jerk. Like they don't apologize. They don't take
Right.
ownership. They don't own their own feelings. And so like, yeah, we are all going to yell. Of course we are. Like, it doesn't matter. Even if you're got the best boundaries and the best distress tolerance, your kid's going to take you to the edge of everything. And so we
They are.
are going to lose it, but
Yes.
we know better how to repair that and how to move on. And so
Right.
it's not the same. So I want us to not be so afraid of our kids crying, our kids being unhappy, our kids, being scared of us occasionally when we lose it and get dysregulated, because it happens to everyone. And the only
Yeah.
ones it doesn't happen to are the monks in the monasteries, and they're not having kids
They don't
because they
have
would lose
kids.
their shit too.
Yeah.
So,
The best parenting advice comes from people with no kids. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
You're so right. And I love that you said that, because we are not our parents, just like our parents aren't their parents. Like
Right.
we're getting better. It's going to be okay. And you're right. Whenever they come, like, I don't know if your son has come to you and said, hey mom, I didn't like the way you did this and that. And like, I'm so interested in where your motherhood has brought you to, like a 19-year-old and all the tech and all the stuff. And like that he could probably have an honest conversation with you without it
Yeah.
being like, no, my mom's going to get mad. She's going to take it so personally if I let her know that I was upset by her.
Well,
You know what I
he
mean?
did when he turned 18. I did that because I was like, hey, you're 18. Like, technically, you're an adult. But if something has pissed you off throughout your life, say it now so I can apologize. Say it now before it
Wow,
festers
you
when
gave
you
him
have
an
your own kids.
opportunity. That's so cool.
But because it's me and him, we have a different dynamic. We've been closer than most, and I homeschooled him, and we just last night we were talking about this thing. I used to, when I get upset, I have to be quiet because I've learned that the first things that come out of my mouth are hurtful. So I just shut up. And I always thought I was just being quiet. Well, it turns out I'm sucking the oxygen out of a 50-mile radius. I'm not just being quiet, I'm being quiet. And
Right.
and when he was 4, he came to me and he was crying, and I was upset about something that he had done, and he was crying, and he said, mommy, please don't do this. And I said, what? And he said, you're scaring me. You're too quiet. You're mean quiet. Like, he was describing the quiet. And I was like, oh, I am. I didn't realize that. And so, that was so helpful in my own journey, because I was like, but he called me on things along the way.
Right.
So, and
But you gave him that opening, that opportunity to do that.
right,
Because again, you're not a boomer. You
right.
probably did a lot of repairing. And so you've been able to create a space where he feels comfortable sharing
Yeah.
things with you, and knowing that he's not going to have to, deal with a second punishment for having shared his feelings with
Right.
you.
And that's what I think the best thing we can do. I think that's the definition of securely attached, is that a child can come to you with whatever, and you don't get upset with them.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
And I
Yeah. And
think,
it's all the same thing, that tolerance for yourself, tolerance for what it is to be a parent, not using the pacifier every single time, because you're never going to build your tolerance.
right.
Right. And
I mean,
so
we'll see when he has
that's
kids, because I feel like once you have kids, all the wounds, all like shit you didn't even know was
things,
there.
right. They
Like, you're
do
like,
come
oh,
back. You're like,
yeah.
whoa. Yeah. And we'll see. But at the same time, I'm sure that you are looking forward to it if and when he decides to have a family of his own, to be part of it and to be helpful, and to probably have an open ears, open mind, support that woman, all those beautiful things. Because I also have sons, and
Yeah.
I can recognize that. Like, I don't have a daughter to where I could like baby her whole pregnancy and be there as the postpartum doula and do all the things that I think are so freaking awesome.
Right.
But I know that I can support whatever woman, if they decide to get married and have kids, or have kids, whatever, that I can do that for them and like be there. And I think that's so cool.
I can't wait. Okay, so we should probably start closing this out, but I wanted to ask you now, I wanted to go back to the snacking thing. Do you not take any snacks with you, or do you take like some like whole foods, like an apple or something like that?
Initially, I was like hardcore about it, because in that space in my life, I was very much so, and this was just this summer, I was very much so like securing the nap in the middle of the day for my younger child. So I was never really out for longer than 2 hours. And I felt like that was an okay amount of time to just bring water if I made sure they ate a full meal. Because again, I have the luxury of being home with my kids. I know that's not everybody's position. So I was able to take as long as it takes to eat your breakfast. Then we'll leave, we'll go do the thing, come back for a nap. So I had a lot of moments to come back home. But as now my younger son's older and he can stay awake longer, I'm realizing that depending on the trip, of course, like if it's over 3 hours, I'm going to probably bring a apple, because an apple, I can throw it in my purse. It's not going to bruise. It's not going to spill. It's totally, contained. It's in its own wrapper already. I'll bring an apple or I'll bring a banana. I'll bring something like that, just whole, or like a cheese stick or whatever. Obviously, if things need refrigeration, it takes the next level,
cheese
or
stick's good
meat
for
stick.
12 hours. I've
Cheese
eaten
stick's
them at 12
fine.
hours.
A little soft, but listen, it's an acquired taste. Yeah. So I'll just bring something. Yeah. It's like beef jerky. If your kids are able to eat nuts are great. But I know younger kids, a great one is like a pear, and I'll bring a pear in a shaker jar so it doesn't get bruised.
Nice.
Like something like that, because you can just toss it. It doesn't matter if it's what temperature it is. So I'm just thinking about shelf stable, no mess, kind of difficult foods to eat. A little bit of effort. I'm not doing pouches. I'm not doing all this stuff that's
there you go. A little bit of effort.
Something a little bit of effort in the food, because that tells me that you're actually hungry. Because I'll be like, they're like, I'm hungry or whatever. And I'm like, here's an apple. And they're like, nah, I'm good. A lot of times they'll either pass on it, but if they actually grab it, then they eat it.
I'm doing a deep dive into like literally how dopamine works. And it's so different than I think what people think. And there's like the slow dopamine that we talk about. And that is like, I get dopamine, of course, climbing mountains, but I've spent 7 hours getting to the summit. Of course I get dopamine. But I'm thinking like hard boiled eggs, like getting that stupid shell off. Like then you do feel rewarded with the egg, because you're like, I cut the egg. Right?
Yes, that's a great one. I should start doing that.
Or Baby Bell cheese, like it's a little struggle to get that wax going, to get it off, right?
Yeah, so to peel the cutie, to eat the apple, there's all these little things. Yeah, make it kind of a present to unwrap,
right.
And that's the fun part of the snack. And also okay, well, if it's going to be a little bit of effort, I got to spend some time, which is also good for their motor skills. That's the thing with
nuts, because we used to have to crack nuts. Right. So you ate 5 almonds at a time after Thanksgiving dinner. That was it, because you had to crack them out of the shell.
My great grandpa
had the bowl of nuts. And now when you can grab handfuls, I don't think eating nuts the way we eat it is we're not meant to do that.
No, they're very calorically dense.
Yeah.
Right. I don't mind my 2 or 4-year-old eating as many cashews as they'd like, because they are little. But for me, if I start doing that, I will pack on the pounds quickly. Yeah. Not that, whatever. Anyway, so I bring an apple. If you're I don't know if we're going to be gone a little too long, or they didn't eat that much of their breakfast, or that's the other thing. I scoop all their breakfast into a Tupperware and I bring it in the car or whatever the thing is.
It's okay to be hungry. I think we've lost that
okay
along
to be
the way.
Hungry.
We are in an overabundant, and I'm glad
yeah.
we're not in famine anymore.
Yeah.
But we would, not that long ago, I live in New England. By February or March, we would be pretty lean because all the fresh food is gone. And so I just feel like now with 24 access to supermarkets and delivery, we've forgotten that it's not a crime to be hungry. When we're abundant, obviously, right. I don't want children in poor neighborhoods being hungry. I'm not talking about that. But
right, we're not talking about starving kids
who have abundance. Hunger is okay, and so
it's important. It's biologically important.
They go 3 hours hungry. And they're hungry. Now you serve dinner, they're gonna eat it.
They're gonna eat. And I love what you did a couple weeks ago. Now I think is just talking about the early dinner. Talking about making that dinner, and having kind of ready by 4:30 or 5. 4:30 is a great time for dinner. 3, 4, whatever after school is for you, giving them an opportunity to eat. And if they're not hungry, then you have ample hours to make sure that they eat before bedtime. So you're not all rushing into bedtime and then having them eat a bunch and then lay them down. It's seems a little bit silly. So just, I think being strategic about allowing your kid to be hungry, and coming back home to eat. And it's okay to be hungry. They can be hungry for 20, 30 minutes. It's going to be okay. And again, that's, it goes back to that same building tolerance for suffering, little microdosing suffering.
Microdose of suffering. I love that.
Microdose suffering for you and your kids. Yeah.
We can
Hmm.
always, oh my God, I'm totally stealing that, microdosing suffering, because I think that is
Okay.
what
Yeah.
builds the tolerance, right? Is like,
Yeah.
and it's okay. And it is that almost hermetic effect, which is it's good for us. Because I
Yeah.
do think we have, like, I think the human condition is one of suffering and overcoming suffering. And that's important. Oh,
And
I
I
love
don't
that.
think that any person on this earth wants to raise kids who cannot deal. I don't think
Right.
people want to raise humans that cannot deal or
Right. We
cannot.
talk about resilience and grit, and yet we're
Yeah.
like
And yet, here, stop.
pacifying.
Here you go. I
Yeah.
just went on a vacation with my husband and we didn't have our kids. I'm so, so fortunate to have a mother in law who loves my children and my mom loves my kids. So we have options
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
childcare. So anyway, I was able to look around at everybody else and their kids in the airport. Every single child, Jamie, I tell you, had their parents' phone in their hands. 7 months old, a
Yeah.
year old, two. It was just so crazy to me to look around and I'm like, these are going to be my children's peers. How can I set my children apart? Because this is still a world of kind of survival of the fittest. So what am I going to do to set my kids up? Because these are their peers right now. And how
Yeah.
can we help parents also? And it's not just a competition, but how can we help other parents kind of see the light of what's happening?
Yeah.
And I think more and more people are waking up. And I think Gen Z is waking up to it
Yeah. And
by large degree.
I think we have to admit there's two things that are happening at once. One is we have a culture that disdains children. Our society hates kids,
Yeah. And
but
then an airport setting, yes, that's true.
we have to own up to the fact for the last 10 years we tried out the gentle permissive parenting, and that created little assholes in public, and that's why society hates kids now. So we have to kind of marry that, and it wasn't all everybody,
Yeah.
but that's what happened. And so we have to go back to, if we want screen free kids, we have to go back to kids being kids, which means they're going to be inconvenient. There are going to be fits thrown, there are going to be kids running around the airport to get their wiggles out, right? And so like there's a larger societal thing, but I think if we come
Right.
back to a more leadership, authoritative, not authoritarian style of parenting, where parents are doing something about it, then we
Yes.
will have kids who are not so dissatisfied and need a fix to,
Right.
stay quiet or be, yeah.
Right. So we're gonna microdose suffering this generation. That's what we're doing. And
Love
it's
it.
gonna be better and it's better every day. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I am all set unless you have anything else you want to say, anything that's on your mind, anything that's important to you.
Well, I don't think so. I think that we mostly covered it. I thank you so much for the work that you're doing and sharing just the strength and the wisdom that you have and just the expertise. So thank you again. Oh, and just one more thing, just hats off to you. I have a 2-year-old. He just turned 2 in September, and we're fully potty trained. And it was no
Nice.
problem
Oh my
because I
goodness.
learned from you the first time,
I
and
love it.
he loves the potty and he's happier than ever, and so are we. So
That's
I don't
awesome.
know if longer is better. That's all.
Right, right. Well, I just want to let everybody know. So I reached out to Tori and I was like, "Hey, would you like to be on my podcast to talk about this snacking thing?" And she was like, "Oh, yes, I've used your book to potty train." So I like didn't know you before
Yeah,
reaching
no,
out to
we
you.
didn't
So
know each other. No, you reached out and it's been a
that's
really
so
cool
fun.
full circle moment. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Tori, so much for being here. You lit a fire under my ass, because now I have answers to like a couple of questions that were just lingering for me. And I'm so happy to talk to a younger person. And like, of course you have no distress tolerance. You didn't grow up with it. So that
Right.
helps me in my work, instead of just being like dumbfounded, like, what the hell is wrong with you? You have to
What's
let
wrong
your
with
kid
our what's
cry. Like
yeah,
now I
yeah,
have a
why am I so
framework.
tired? Why is this so
Yeah, I have a
hard?
framework
Yeah,
for helping people. So I just like, I
absolutely.
love it, love it, love it. All right. Thanks, guys. As always, I appreciate you listening. Rock on if it's going
Bye.
down.
Yes, exactly. Bye.